We'll be turning our attention now to the issue of resistance. What cattlemen need to know about internal parasite control in their herds. Dr. Clymer, there's a lot of talk and conflicting discussion in the industry about resistance management as it relates to internal parasite. Do we have a resistance problem here in the United States?
At this time in the cattle industry, we don't have a major problem, but we're right on the verge of having a very major problem. You know, we saw this happen in some of the other species, sheep as an example, and there are some areas that we literally almost can't kill the worms anymore with any of the products we currently have. There have been a couple of reported incidences with resistance in cattle, and we're doing additional research on that at this time, but it is a very real issue, and it's one that we need to put all of our effort that we can in managing that situation.
So how can I tell if there's a resistance problem in my own cow herd, Dr. Morgan?
Well, if the producer and his or her veterinarian suspect that, one of the most important things we can do is do what we call a fecal egg count reduction test. And that's where we choose about 10, within a group, choose about 10 animals or 10% of the group, whichever is a smaller number, identify those animals, draw a fecal sample from those animals, and deworm them. Wait about 10 to 14 days, get another fecal sample from that same set of animals, and then compare the two. And what we want to see is that second fecal sample, there should be a reduction in the eggs in that fecal sample by 85 to 90% or greater. If it's less than that, then we suspect a problem that product is no longer performing for us, and we probably need to be setting up another control strategy.
So if I find that I have a resistance problem in my cow herd, should I just deworm more often to try to fix the problem, Dr. Clymer?
The answer is definitely not on that, because what happens when you deworm an animal and you do have resistance, all you have left, let's say you have 20% of that population that's resistant to the insect or the pesticide, then you deworm, and so the whole population that's left is resistant. So all of the eggs, and that's what it's really about, is egg shed reduction in those animals. So all of those eggs that are being laid are probably going to be resistant worms. So you've gone from a little bit of a resistance to a major resistance issue. So we need to use the best product at the correct dose with the longest persistence to try to avoid that issue.
So what kind of management practices can I employ in my own operation to be proactive and avoid having this resistance problem in the first place? John Bill, do you have thoughts?
Sure I do. You know, we all worry about money and economics and saving the most money we can, but when you dose these animals, that's not where you try to save money. And what I mean by this, don't underdose the animal. Try to give the proper dose. And when we're worming various sizes of animals going through the herd, the best thing to do is to pick the largest one, calculate the dose for that, and use that larger dose on everything. Do not underdose the animals.
Dr. Morgan, what would you add?
Well, there's a couple other things. One thing, just to reduce the parasite burden in the environment, as Dr. Clymer alluded to, is when we deworm a group and we're getting, particularly in a cow-calf setting, getting ready to move them out on a new pasture. Once we deworm them, hold them for 2 or 3 days, let them kind of clean themselves out, so to speak, and then put them on a new pasture. That will decrease the contamination, and if we've decreased the egg contamination burden, we're going to decrease the chances for resistance to development. The other thing we might think about doing is we go down the road. We're not at that stage yet, but as we go down the road, do more fecal analysis, and it's the old 80-20 rule. Within a group of animals, about 20% or so of them are going to shed about 80% of the eggs into the environment. So we want to identify that group and get rid of them.
Well, this is clearly an important issue, and we appreciate your insights on this matter.